Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Stephanie and I am here today because I have a pretty hefty book haul here, and the reason for this book haul is because this past Sunday I turned 30 and my girlfriend wanted to do something really special for me. So she wanted to get me 30 books, which is absolutely insane and amazing, and I appreciate her so much. She asked me to send her my book wish list and I did, and she came back and she was like, hey, you only have 21 books on there, so we're gonna go to Barnes and we're gonna go to Target and you're gonna pick 9 more. Say less. I was so excited. So now I have all the books here, so let's get started. These are the 30 books that my girlfriend got me for my 30th birthday. I have a whole mix of genres in here, tons of range, so hope that you enjoy. But let's just get started. So I'll just pull from the top. The first one that I have here is The Family Remains by Lisa Jewell. I haven't taken off my stickers yet, but this is a domestic thriller. It looks like it's a murder mystery, involves like interconnected murders, events from the past come to light, and it really just seems like your typical domestic drama. I love Lisa Jewell's writing, so I'm very excited for this one. I have read 2 books from her, but her most recent release, None of This Is True, I actually, when I did my thriller bracket video, that was my favorite thriller of the year, so I definitely want to give some more of her writing a shot. Next here, she got me Butcher and Blackbird, which I am so excited to read this one. Honestly, this one is definitely like a hype buy for me. I've heard so much about this book. I really had no intention of reading it, and everyone who's talked about it has really just sold it to me. So this is a romance between 2 serial killers, but they kill serial killers. So they're like good guy serial killers, but I don't know, just a very interesting, different type of premise for a romance. I've heard that the writing is really great and that there are just some like actually really funny moments in this, so I'm very curious, super excited to have my hands on this though. Next one here is All the Right Notes by Dominic Lim. This is a queer romance, 2 guys who are living in New York City, and one is a Broadway actor and the other is a musician. It's just a relationship between 2 performers in New York City. I love this cover. This next one here is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. So this one is for a video, a reading vlog that I want to film. This one is from the same author as The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. So it is a historical fiction and it takes place in 1940s Ireland. It is basically about this teenage boy who was adopted by a family who are very like rich and influential people in Ireland because he was born to a teenage mother, and it's basically just about him trying to fit in this family that he doesn't feel like is his. This next one is a thriller, Everyone Is Watching by Heather Gudenkauf. And this says that it is basically Big Brother meets Clue. So this is basically like a Big Brother story gone wrong. It's contestants who are chosen to compete on a show very similar to Big Brother, but it turns out sinister and creepy, which I love thrillers and I love reality TV, so I'm really excited for this one. It sounds right up my alley. This next one here is Love at First Set by Jennifer Dugan. This is another queer romance, and this is a gym romance between 2 women. I think that maybe one of them is a personal trainer. Oh no, one of them is a check-in girl at the gym and the other one goes to the gym, and that's how they start dating. It seems like there might be some type of fake dating in here, I'm not sure, but I love the idea of a queer like gym sports romance. I think that is awesome. This one, I'm obsessed with this cover. It is called Such a Lovely Family by Aggie Bloom Thompson. Look at this cover, and it's actually the cherry blossoms are because the book takes place in Washington DC. So this is a family domestic drama that takes place in DC. It basically seems like this family is a total like facade. They're super wealthy and influential, and like secrets start to come out. And if you can't tell, I really like family dramas, but I'm super excited about this one because I live in the DMV area, so I like reading books that take place in DC or the surrounding areas. This next one here I've wanted forever. This is called Exalted, and this is about a woman who runs an astrology Instagram account. She's also gay, and I love astrology. I have loved astrology for actually since I was a child. I think that I got my first astrology book maybe in like 4th or 5th grade. I've always loved astrology and the in-depthness of the birth charts. I'm very into those things. And like I said before, I am a gay woman. So this is basically like my favorite things combined. And look at this cover. It is just so freaking cute. I love it. I love the pink. I cannot wait to read this. This next one is called Fable, and this is a YA fantasy. Look at the edges. They're just so beautiful. And I just cannot believe that a buy one, get one 50% off at Barnes. I found something with these beautiful sprayed edges. Like you would think that that would not be a buy one, get one. This is a YA fantasy. There's a 17-year-old girl named Fable. That's who you're following. And her father basically abandons her on this island. I think that he drowns. No, her mom drowns and her father abandons her, and she's basically stuck on this magical sea island, and she basically meets a couple of people who are trying to get her out of the island, and it seems like her father was mixed up in some bad stuff that comes back, and it kind of gives me the vibe of Six of Crows for some reason. No idea why. Other than just that it's like, it kind of seems like the book is focused on like a mission the way that Six of Crows is. And so I love books like that. So I'm very excited. This next one is also for the video that I said I was filming. This is called Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wen. It seems kind of like a dark academia a little bit because it takes place at this program or school called Love Boat, and it seems like it's all of these like prodigies who are trying to become like doctors and lawyers and all of these things. They all have secrets and they all have things going on, and it's a YA book, YA dark academia, so that should be super cool. That is one I don't know all that much about, so if I am coming off like don't really know much about the book, it's because I don't, and the synopsis on the back was very short and vague, and I kind of want to keep it that way and go in a little more blind. This next one is completing a series for me. This is The Winners by Friedrich Bachmann. This is the 3rd book in the Beartown trilogy, which is a literary fiction trilogy about basically this remote community and the politics and the education and their hockey club. There's sports in it, there's friendships in it, there's found family, there's lots of conflict. You're following most of the same characters throughout the books, and the first book was okay for me, but the second book I loved, so I'm very excited to read The Winners, and I already own the first 2 books, so it'll be great to complete my collection. There's not that much I can say about it because it is the 3rd book in a trilogy, so there would just be spoilers galore. I would say give the trilogy a chance. Just check the trigger warnings. This next one here is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I feel like this book really had its moment last year. This is a magical realism romance, and at first the concept didn't really intrigue me. It's basically about this woman who goes and lives in her late aunt's apartment that has magical elements to it, and the magical element is that the apartment can sometimes be living 7 years in the past, and when it is living 7 years in the past, she has a roommate, this guy, but when she's living in the present timeline, she's not with him, and it's like a whole different life, and she's going between the two. That really didn't do much for me when hearing the synopsis, but when somebody explained it in a different way, and they explained it that they actually do meet in both timelines, and they have this relationship in the past timeline, but when they meet in the current timeline, things are strained and not as good, and it like kind of shows that they would like maybe not work out in the future, and it's kind of this like debacle about growing apart and growing together, and that really sold me on it, so I'm super excited to read this one. This next one is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I love this cover. I think it is so pretty. Alice Oseman is the author of Heartstopper, the queer graphic novel series. This is not a graphic novel, this is just a novel. And it's basically about this podcast called Universe City. The female main character makes art and fan art for this podcast because she's like the biggest fan. She loves it. And this kid named Aled, the male main character, is the creator of Universe City, the podcast, but he goes by the name Radio Silence online, so people don't know that it's him. And basically they start talking and they start collaborating together on this podcast. They're both trying to like basically, I guess, find themselves, and they're living vicariously, not vicariously, but they're kind of living in these secret identities, feeling comfortable being able to share things through this podcast that they would not be comfortable talking to people about it if they knew that it was them, if that makes sense. Just a nice young adult coming of age story, but I have been a podcast girl for a long time. I grew up really loving the radio, so I just thought that this would be really nice, and the aesthetic of the cover is just like the best thing ever to me. Next, this is another one that I could not believe. Barnes & Noble had the exclusive edition of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies on buy one, get one 50% off. This is easily one of the most beautiful books I've ever seen, this edition. This is a cozy fantasy book about a woman named Emily Wilde who is studying fairies, and basically as her like capstone project, she's sent around the world to study different types of fairies, and you're just following her around on her journey. But oh my god, these colors I love. And there is a second book that came out called Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Otherland, so technically it is the first book in a series. This next one is called Behind the Scenes. This is a queer romance with two women who both work on the set of a show. I think that one of them is, I think it's between an actress and a filmmaker. I always love to see like a new queer romance author, so super excited about this one. This next one is called That Dark Infinity by Kate Pentecost. And this is another one that I got for that specific video idea that I'm doing. So this is a fantasy. It seems like there's magic. It looks like it's kind of a queer romance. It takes place in a kingdom. There's a lot of fighting, politics. It looks like there's a curse involved. There are people who are immortal. There's a lot going on in this. This little thing says, an immortal monster hunter, a royal handmaiden, a journey that will change their fates. So that's kind of all I've gathered from that, but I'm very excited to give this a shot. I would say it's a little out of my comfort zone, so that's cool. Next one that she got me is Big Swiss by Jen Bagan. This is a literary fiction book about a woman who is a receptionist for a sex therapist, and she becomes like obsessed and infatuated with one of the clients. Sounds super wild and interesting. Books that regard like weird things going down in therapy is a trope that I enjoy reading about, and I don't know what that says about me, so I'm just gonna leave it. Next one I am so excited about. I think this is actually going to be my next read. This is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This is a beginning of a YA dystopian series, basically where people don't die anymore, but you can still be murdered. And because of overpopulation, basically the government created this role called Scythes, and they're tasked with murdering people, like to control the population. I think that the Scythes are like just picked as like young people, and they don't really have any control over it, and I think that you're following a scythe in this one. I love dystopian books. I think that this sounds really interesting. Very much what I'm in the mood for at the moment. This next one here is also the beginning of a fantasy trilogy. This is called This Poison Heart. I have been wanting to read this book for so long. This is about a young girl who is able to grow plants from seeds like immediately with her powers. She inherits a house from her aunt who dies, and she's like given some tasks to do at the house with her gift of growing plants. I just think that that sounds very unique, very cool. I'm very excited about it. This next one here is another domestic thriller. This is Look Closer by David Ellis. I have wanted this book forever. It is basically about this couple who just seems absolutely incredible, wealthy. Their whole lives start to unravel as their secrets are uncovered after a murder happens, which is literally the plot of every single domestic drama thriller now that I kind of say it out loud. but it doesn't really matter. I eat it up. I'm the type of person who watched like every episode of Judge Judy and like every episode of Criminal Minds. Like I don't care if something follows a formula. If it's good, like I'm eating it up. And I don't care. So I'm very excited for this one. Next book that I have here is The Spectacular by Fiona Davis. This is a historical fiction that takes place in New York City. And I believe that it follows two sisters. One of them wants to be a rockette and one of them wants to kind of pave their way into the business world. And it's basically just about these two women who are on completely different paths and how they experience those different fields in New York City in the 1950s as women. I think that that's a really, really cool, interesting idea for a book. This next one is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This one I got because I've heard quite a few YouTubers who I like talk about this book. It is a horror book. It makes me a little nervous, but if you watched my trying to finish my February TBR vlog, I actually read a horror book, Dead 11, in that vlog, and I loved it. I rated it 5 stars. So I've been kind of ever so slightly dipping my toe, and I mean that in the most literal sense, ever so slightly dipping my toe into horror. And this one came highly recommended. I believe it's about killer mermaids. I don't know much more than that, but yeah, Into the Drowning Deep. This next one here is a queer YA rom-com. It's called You Don't Have a Shot. It is about 2 soccer players in high school, I think. Yes, and they go to a soccer camp together, and that is how they meet. I love a good YA queer love story. It's just so pure and so sweet to see that, especially because that is not something I had a whole lot of growing up. This next one is called The Romantic Agenda. This is a romance book, but the female main character is asexual, and I've never read a romance book with an asexual character. So I just think that this will be something interesting and different from your typical romance. This next one is called Super Bloom. This is another queer romance. I believe it is between 2 women who work at a spa. One of them is a massage therapist. Oh, and the other one is a massage guest. Oh, a famous romance author who... Oh. She basically wants the massage therapist to like give her all the tea about the place. So she wants to write a book about it and they have a relationship. I don't know. That sounds really interesting and different. This next one is also for the video I was talking about. This is called The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. I do not remember what this is about. So let's see. Oh, basically it starts in this college town in Southern California. One by one, these freshman girls just fall asleep and don't wake up. And then it starts happening to everybody, and it follows these 2 sisters who have like a survivalist type of family, disaster preparing. I mean, it's about a pandemic, but what's interesting is it says those affected by the illness doctors discover are displaying unusual levels of brain activity higher than has ever been recorded before. They're dreaming heightened dreams, but of what? And honestly, this sounds like it'll be right up my alley. It gives me the vibes of Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I love that book. So I'm really, really excited for this. I probably, well, I say I want to read it soon, but I am specifically reading it for a video, but we'll see. I'm gonna work it in soon. This next one here is called Nevada by Imogen Binnie. This is about a young trans woman who basically runs away to Nevada, and it's a coming of age story. Her friends and the people she meets and the found family that she makes. And I used to live in Nevada, and I just really like the concept and idea of this book, and I'm super excited to read this one. This next one is called Heartbreak House Share. I got this because of Rachel Catherine here on YouTube's recommendation. This is basically about a woman who is going through a breakup, and she ends up, like, she has to move out of her apartment, and she ends up moving into this share house with these 3 other women, and they're all just like kind of going through their own stuff, and it's just about like the friendship that they have in this transitional period of their life and the community that they build, and I just think it sounds very heartwarming. Excited for that one. I have 2 more here. This is Welcome to Fae Cafe. It's a cozy fantasy book about a cafe that's run by fairies, And it seems like there is some action in here, though. It's not completely just cozy, because on the back we're talking about Fae assassins and going to the human realm, and basically these assassins, oh, that's cool. So these assassins, they get like roped into running this cafe somehow, and they have to try to blend in and appear normal and not like fairy assassins. That sounds really interesting. It does look like there's a romance in here, and it does have a #1 on it, so I don't know if there is a second book to this. It says A High Court of the Coffee Bean novel. I don't know if that's a series, but looks very cute. Last but not least is the start to a YA fantasy series, Legendborn. I've been wanting to read this book forever. They're living in a world where magic exists, and this girl on her first night at college at UNC Chapel Hill, randomly, she witnesses a magic attack. There's a secret society of people called Legendborns who hunt down these like magical demon monsters that are killing people. It's basically just the beginning of the story about the Legendborns and this magic. It seems like there's war and politics in here. I'm super excited about it. I have heard nothing but incredible things about this book. That is it for my 30 books that I got for my 30th birthday from my girlfriend. I hope that you enjoyed this haul and that you got some ideas maybe for some books that sound good. Subscribe to my channel if you like reading vlogs or any other type of book videos. That is everything that I have for now. I hope that you enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day.